Steve, did we both get haircuts?
No. Mine was just a mess Saturday when you saw me, so this looks half decent today.
Okay. All right,
Yours looks nice. Good job.
Yeah, that wasn't me fishing for compliments.
No, it looks nice. Mine was a circus on Saturday when you saw me.
You're wearing a hat.
Yeah. That's why I had the hat on. You didn't know.
Yeah. For those of you that have been betting on the official over under of how many times we're going to see each other at a tailgate, it's already at a 1, and sources say it might be going to 2. Maybe we'll explain that.
There's a lot of season left to go too,
and we have a reason we might explain that later. Yeah, the name of this podcast is called Stuff Summer Says with
Steve.
Steve, he's doing wonderful. He already said that before we started. Just us tonight. That's okay. We've been going long lately, so it's the bye week. Hopefully, we're relatively short this week, but we have things we want to talk about. I have 3 headings, if you will, of segments here.
Okay.
Dive into game recap, game presentation, and then we're gonna make you stick around for that the third one. But you know what it is. So
me too. That's great.
Okay. So all right. Said the name of the podcast, so let's dive in. Penn State played a football game. They won 52-6. There's a lot of things to think about, talk about, and I think the word of the week, it seems to be, is overthinking. That's a compound word. Takes over and thinking, puts it together. And I think I tried to dabble into that and talk about that, and hopefully iterated how I felt about Saturday's performance, which was maybe we're all just kind of overthinking this, and maybe we're sinking too much into the last 2 games, really, because I think Penn State looked relatively pretty strong in that first game. I think there were no complaints, or any complaints that I did have now kind of been quelled by what I saw from the defense, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. I think all things considered, going back and looking at statistics and watching a little bit of the game back and some thoughts there, and just a little bit of retroflection, I don't know, making up words at this point. I feel like Penn State didn't take a step back, and they took a step somewhat forward holistically as a whole team. I think I would have liked to see individual players, particularly one quarterback, take a broader step forward. But I thought all in all, I think we're maybe overthinking this, and I think the sky is falling panic that has kind of weirdly set in when the defense has allowed 3 points basically with its starters on the field, and the offense has scored 132 over 3 games. Might be a little Chicken Little type feel to it. Thoughts?
Yeah. I think it's easy to be hesitant and easy to not be as motivated against teams that you're better than. You're trying to be perfect. You're trying to do whatever. You're trying to do just enough instead of just playing. And I think that's part of what's happening. And we'll find out in a couple 2 weeks for sure, at least one set of information, and maybe a little after that. The quarterback might just be good, right? He might not be great. Like, he might just be good. So, and that's okay. Penn State has won national championships with quarterbacks who were less than good, or won a national championship with a quarterback who was less than good. So, yeah, I think it's cause for concern if you really want to worry about every little thing, that every pass isn't on the mark at this point of your career, right? Like, those should be gimmies. The ones that should be gimmies, and the decisions that look like bad decisions because they're bad decisions. But in the whole scheme of things, they're 3-0. They've done everything they're supposed to do. They play Oregon, and even that, right? Like, God forbid if they lose, I'm still going to come back in the Monday after and say, okay, they're still making the playoff, right? Unless something goes wrong, because they got one to play with. They got to lose 2. So, no, I think they're where they're supposed to be at this point. It doesn't look as wonderfully dominant as people would like it to have looked. But okay, so improve and play better against Oregon.
I think the Drew Aller thing is an important bit of this conversation, and I do think, he admitted after the FIU game that he was overthinking it. James Franklin talked about it between him and Nick Singleton. He brought it up kind of twice in the press conference. And even after the game on Saturday, he said, I think Drew can be better. And I think everybody and their brother, I think Drew Aller believes and knows that he can be better. And what I was thinking about is like, if they're going to make these mistakes, now was the time, or this was the time to make a lot of those mistakes. That interception that he throws, the guy gets tackled because the guy that chases him down is a better athlete right now. In 2 weeks, that might go for 6 the other way because that athlete's just as good as the other athlete that's standing on the other side of the field. But if you're gonna screw up, now is the time to screw up. And I think we talked about this with the approach of, I don't know if we talked about this. Maybe I was just listening to this with Brian Tripp and Steve Jones's podcast that they have. But the approach of, you put it on film to just to put it on film for other people to think about, and just to do it to see it in action, in motion. And I think maybe that's what we're forgetting in this process. And I think I definitely felt less anxious than I was. I felt less anxious leaving the stadium Saturday than I was a week prior to leaving the stadium. And here on Monday night, I feel even better.
Yeah, they didn't do anything horribly, terribly wrong, right? I mean, yes, the interception, yes, some throws. But if that's the whole thing, I think it's easy to play down to your opponents. I think Penn State has played to the level of its opponents under James Franklin, which is a good thing because they usually play up, right? But I think they've also, and if playing down is still winning 52-6, you might be okay.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that is important, and one of the preambles to the game of just talking to some friends, was when you look at Villanova, statistically speaking, and where they sit, they sat on par in a general same vicinity on a lot of metrics that Nevada and FIU did. And quite honestly, more or less, now that I think about it, maybe aside from the middle game, you had 3 relatively the same outcomes. The defense played great. The offense could have played better, and the special teams was good as well. Yeah, I think that's important. I think, speaking of the defense, I think we're starting to see why Jim Knowles is worth all of this money. I think the defense is going to be what carries Penn State forward, regardless of how good and what potential the quarterback can reach. Because the progress that they have made from game 1 to game 3 in playing this system, and how much faster they're playing. And I know some of that is the fact that they went from playing Nevada, which is a Mountain West school, to playing Villanova, which is an FCS school. But is there really that much difference? You know, I think that was noticeable. And I think that is the thing that if you're going to do this and we want all of this to work out, you go with a good defense, as Penn State has always had. And then you establish the running game, which they did a nice job of on Saturday as well.
Yeah, I think it's now the preseason's over, and it's an exciting time to see, okay, what's next, right? You can nitpick what they've done, and that's just fun. It's like self-inflicted problems here and there. And is it good enough? Well, we'll get to find out in 2 weeks. And that's going to be the fun part, right? To see if they're really that good, or see what the step up is to Oregon.
Can I ask you something about a word you just said?
Sure.
I do not remember a time, a year, where Penn State has relatively more or less, maybe not in the last 10 years, 7 years or so, had a non-conference slate this week. But I cannot remember a season where the word preseason was used to describe non-conference. You've used it a lot. I've seen a lot of writers use it.
So bad,
use
right?
it a lot.
Like, it just...
Thought that was curious.
Yeah, because it is. It's an off. It's a conscious way. It's a conscious way to say this isn't a great schedule, right? And then it doesn't mean anything, right? So, without being too big of a jerk about it, people can say, "Oh, this is the preseason," because they know it is, and nothing's going to go wrong. There's no way, aside from a blue bus breaking down a Porter Road, that this team wasn't going to win 3 games, right? I mean, there just wasn't.
Correct.
And even then, until they walked up the hill, they were still going to be okay. It was awful.
We apologize to the Penn State Transit Authority or whatever in the blue buses.
Right. I mean,
we trust them. They're reliable vehicles.
But isn't there a part of you?
Go ahead.
And now I'm going to take us off.
Yeah, no.
shouldn't these games cost you less? And maybe they did in the whole. I mean, maybe they did in the whole scheme of things, individual ticket wise. But shouldn't these cost you less because they're doing this?
I mean, they kind of do.
They do. They kind of do because
they have a dynamic. Right? They have a dynamic system.
Right.
Because I accidentally discovered this looking at the tickets when I added them. When you add them to your Apple Wallet and you click the information button, it says the price of the ticket. And I downloaded my Oregon ones because I wanted to see the differences in price between the two.
Okay.
I want to say it was like $45 for this game and $145. I don't know the specific.
Well, then at least they put that. At least they put a measure on that somewhere.
And I do think for you and I are bad examples. Well, me more so than you are bad examples because we buy all of our season. We buy a season ticket set, so we are in. What's the saying? In for a penny, in for a pound, or whatever.
Yep. Right.
But I do think if you're a family, and we talk about this a lot, and I think this will actually relate to the game presentation segment as well, so you're not taking us off track. I think if you're going to take a family, you are going to pick the Villanova game to take them to, as opposed to the Oregon game, which is going to cost probably $1,000 if you wanted to take a family of 4 right now. I don't know. I haven't looked at the StubHub prices this week on those tickets.
Yeah, and the get in for whatever it was, the one before was like $611, right? That one ticket I found and tweeted about, right? So I just think that part of it, I'm glad it's over, right? Because you're going to get some value in some real competitive games. And I understand why it happened. And yes, Virginia Tech was on the schedule. And yes, there was time they could have gotten someone better if they wanted to. But yeah, it's the preseason. And now games matter more than they did the first 3.
I forgot that this was the reciprocal. This was the weekend for the reciprocal Virginia Tech visit. Interesting times in Virginia Tech. Don't worry, Brent Pry. If you're listening to this podcast, you're still one of 3 brides of Altoona. The other 2 are Kevin Givens and me.
Okay, I was waiting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to our game day presentation. You did not watch the game. Well, live. You did not watch the game, correct? You listened to the game, so I'm very eager to hear about that. But I wanna discuss one particular aspect. And you didn't see this, but you probably saw it in the box score afterwards. It was the purported 109-516 inside Beaver Stadium. I don't think there was an interesting article, I think, in the LA Times this week about UCLA basically lying about how bad their ticket attendance is because they say the scan number, but they say the bot number, but the scan number was quite literally 30,000 less in some instances. I do not think Penn State is that bad. I do think there were a lot of people there, back to the point of it being a cheaper game. I said to you when you came over to our tailgate that this is a lot more packed than it usually is or was 2 weeks ago for around the same time for a 3:30 game. But a 109,000, that's the I think the 16th largest crowd since 2017 inside Beaver Stadium.
So how many were there? So,
106, 107.
Okay, so if they just said 106, 107, you'd have been fine.
I would have been fine. 109 109 for the fact that there's a stadium renovation going on, which has taken capacity down by 200 people, which is only 200 people and might not show up in that number. 109 for the fact that most of your old section, not most of, but there were a lot of blue chairbacks showing in your old section and in the north end, or in the south end zone, excuse me. In the north end zone, there's a shot at kickoff, and then a little bit later in the game that showed much of the corner part of the sections up there empty. The fact that I had a little bit of leg room in my section, I don't know that was 109.
So what's the downside? Like I agree. Like report the scan number, but what's the downside? A collegiate kid who's paying attention, or somebody from Penn Live writes a story and says, "Oh, it doesn't seem like it was really that." Nobody's going to give you the real number. You and I talk about it. Somebody else talks about it in their podcast, and they sold the tickets, right? Like they I don't have any doubt they sold 109. Like they're announcing the ticket sold number probably. And the people who didn't show up aren't the families. They're the people who had something else going on or said it's 3 in a row, or I don't know. Maybe they gave them to somebody and they didn't show up.
That's true. That's a good.
So I don't know what
I guess.
the downside is trust for people who care to trust you.
Yeah.
But do you care that they trust you, right? Like,
but why go
so
that astronomically high? That's a very large. That's the second largest non Power 5 game in the last 10 years that Beaver Stadium has had, more or less.
What would make it better, even better if they're going to do that, is if they would lean into it and embrace it.
Sure.
Today's attendance, 109, whatever. That is the second largest crowd to see a non-Big Ten game in Beaver Stadium in the past 15 years. Yay, you, right? Like, if they lean into it that way, that's even better. Because if you're going to be a heel about that kind of stuff, go ahead and be that person. Be that org, right? You know?
I think that's fair. I had a conspiracy theory about it. I had two conspiracy theories about it. Number one, it was strikingly close to a couple pit games that happened inside Beaver Stadium recently. Thought that was interesting. Number two, I think it was a little bit of a flag plant that, there's all these people here now for this game. Just wait until you see what happens for Oregon. Okay. And I think there is a legitimate question about whether or not Penn State, not will they, but can they break the attendance record for the Oregon game with this 200 seat reduction that we're under this season.
You're not going to have any legroom if they do.
I mean,
and our poor friends up in the upper deck where we are going to have people wandering around trying to find their seats for a quarter and a half. Because that's what happens when those games, the people don't show up on those seats regularly. It takes a quarter and a half to figure out whether they're in SHU and which aisle to come up on SHU or whatever else. So it's a circus. And then they don't want to. Should we go down all the way around, or should we walk across and inconvenience everybody? It's great. It's great theater, especially when you're in the back row, because you get to watch it all. Except they stand in front of you then, and wait to make their decision. No, move your buttocks and find your seat.
I feel like I'm listening to you and Russ mid game.
Russ will definitely be doing that next week. Definitely.
I
won't be happening in my living room, but it will be happening in SHU.
I feel as though that is a very true statement. It's amazing the number of people that do not understand that they are in the wrong row in our section. Like they come in and they're like, "Oh, is this row 22? Nope, this is row 21." Or they're off by like 2. And
it's like they haven't been to a game other than a high school game. Well, this will be okay, right? Like, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No. I watched someone do that in ours 2 rows in front of us this week. Yeah.
Right. No, this will be okay. No, you've got to move. This isn't a bleacher seat. It's everybody has an assigned seat. You need to find yours. You know? So, yeah.
Right. I don't know. I wanted to bring up the attendance figure because that was skeptical. Tailgates were packed. I wrote that down. Closed captioning was back in the stadium. Mm-hmm. The game did take a while. At one point we had a TV timeout, 15 seconds of play, and then a quarter break. Just felt stupid. And I don't understand why we have to do that. We could just take a longer quarter break if we really are that concerned.
There you go.
About fitting that in. That was all I really wrote down. I think that's all I wanted to discuss. How was your listening experience on Saturday?
It's always good to get a game with Steve and Jack and Brian every year, just to remember how good they are. I mean, there's a slight abundance of too many like inside jokes from Steve, like just like some reference to something that the listeners don't know or everybody had to be listening the whole time to know. But the down and distances are there, the analysis is there, and it was such a stark contrast. We listened to them when we were traveling to and we were traveling from. We listened to Notre Dame, Texas A&M. The two people calling Notre Dame shouldn't have jobs at the Division I level. Like, it's just they didn't inform you. It was a mess, and they would contradict themselves over, this would be a good place for a run, and they should do that. And then like 2 plays later, well, see, back when they did that pass, that was great, and it was the same play. Like, Steve and Jack are spot on. They're comfortable together. I would like a little more. Susan mentioned it in the car. Brian did something, and I'm just so used to it, I forgot it. Brian did a hit from the sideline, and then Steve just kept talking. There wasn't like, oh, thanks, Brian. Like, and part of that is I think Steve still was like 15 years ago when they started Sideline Reporters. He was like, we don't need one. I know what I'm doing. And as they've added them and changed them through the years, even though Brian's really good at his job, and I think they have a good relationship, I'm not always sure that there's like, thanks for that update from the field. Like, I think that'd be okay to say. Like, he's not sitting right there with them. But they're good. I mean, They are so much better than a lot of people who are doing this at schools of this size across the country that it's just noticeable.
I think one of the things that I do enjoy about them, and even if they do the inside jokes, when you listen to them on a game like a Villanova game, as opposed to a like the Oregon game, for example, like even in a boring game, they keep you both informed, but they also keep you entertained. Did they do a good job of that on Saturday?
Because you know who's in. I mean, they know they let you know who's getting into the game and what's going on, and they know the level of competition without saying it, right? Like they don't take shots, but they still inform and engage. So yeah, like I have grown up with them, and before that, just Penn State radio being a presence on football Saturdays, and it's always been that way through whether it's Fran and George or whatever else through the years. It's been good stuff, and they uphold that tradition, and I don't think they've really lost a step in what they do.
I forgot to text you about this because I was driving back from Altoona, and I left just a little bit before, so I had to listen to a little bit of the Steeler game in the car. Rob King is really taking a step forward, and they have Max Starks in there now as the color analyst, posting Craig Wolfley, obviously. Rob King has really taken a strong step forward. Like his difference between year over year was very noticeable. And what I always want from an announcer, and both of them do a great job. They tell me which direction. They tell me left to right or right to left, and that I know that's such helpful and minor information. But when you get that, it makes picturing what's happening in your head happen or go so much easier. And I think that's a big benefit that I appreciate and enjoy from both of them.
Yeah, I think the left to right matters. And I think in radio, I think the analyst, whether it's Jack Ham, and this is probably what the guy at Notre Dame didn't do, is come in and tell me something that adds to the play. Don't look at the replay and tell me, oh, they also just stay. Well, when he went off tackle there, he cut back to his right, and that's what made that work. Or they got a block from wherever. They add more detail to it because play-by-play is kind of hard to get that all through in radio. They're just off tackle. And if you come back with the analysis and say, oh, this is why that worked, this is where it fit, without getting too deep into X's and O's and kind of help further describe the picture, I think that makes for a strong combination.
I think that's the thing that I enjoy the most about Jack in particular is I feel like, especially with TV announcers, a lot of them will pepper you with stories of yesteryear or comparisons or try to give their like too broad of opinion and of something that like Chris Collinsworth does this a lot, where he'll talk about a player and be like, oh, that's a great throw. He's such a great leader, such a great quarterback. Tell me why that was a great throw. Tell me why that play was so good. And I think Jack does a really good job of that as well. Okay.
I agree.
Good. How was the concert?
It was really good.
Good. Great.
Didn't embarrass myself too much. So it was good.
Okay. I wanna stick on the announcer trend train. I want to have a conversation related to Saturday's game. First off, I went back, watched most of the first quarter, and then we will talk about what I want to talk about. I thought Connor Onion and Mark Helfrich did a great job. I thought for an FS1 game, they're a good crew. They are a solid crew. Got me the information I needed. Helfrich gave me good analysis. The one thing I want to talk about, and one thing that was fascinatingly I felt that a lot of people were aware of in the stadium, and this is a topic we don't really talk about that much, was the gambling aspect of it all, going into the final drive of the game. So I don't have the specific number, but at that point, Penn State was had hit the cover and was at the total was at the under, and basically that was the most interesting storyline happening in the stadium at that moment. First off, I want to say that even with maybe 20,000 people inside Beaver Stadium at that point, it's amazing how loud that just like the sound is in there. I thought that was of note. And that actually comes through on the TV broadcast as well. But what I thought was interesting and what I want to ask you about is Are we at the point with sports gambling where it is okay for the announcer to not be tongue-in-cheek about that? And I don't think Connor Onion was terribly, and I think, like I said, I think he did a great job. But I would rather just you be honest that this is very important to, like, this is the only interesting thing that's happening related to this game right now. Had it been a tight score, a tight game, I don't care about that. But is it okay for an announcer to talk about that, or are we still?
Oh yeah, we are well past the point where tongue in cheek should be happening. Honestly, I see enough of Mike Pereira and rules people who add nothing. If you have a game like this and your network and ESPN has them, it's Penn State or Mary Kate Dolan, right? Like, and some other people, bring them in and live at a game and say, hey, right now, there's a minute left. The over is this, the spread is this. This is what's interesting to some people, is because at least then you've informed everyone about the whole. This is probably interesting to some people. Maybe I know what you're talking about. Maybe I don't. Feel free to inform me. Feel free to, okay, hey, they scored and that made that made them over for anybody who bet it that way. Hey, they scored and that reduced the spread and they lost there. I think that's okay, because otherwise people are just guessing at what you're talking about. And the job is to inform viewers. And we are in a world where everybody's betting now, especially in the NFL, but even in college, yes, it's fair game. We're past the point where you have to pretend. Yes, it's probably, I don't know the percentage of people. Maybe it's 40% who have money on the game. I don't know if that's high or low.
You think
maybe that's
40?
Low.
That's way high. That feels extremely high to me.
Okay, so what's the number?
Of the people inside Beaver Stadium, or the people watching?
Well, let's just everybody watching, I guess, because that's what we're talking about. Those people serving.
Let's Penn State fans or Villanova fans. I would say 10% maybe.
Okay, so you're still you're gonna alienate 15% of your audience by not telling them what's relevant to them. That seems silly.
No, and I think I was thinking about that, and I think,
and you confuse the other 85. Yes. Sorry, by not saying what you're talking about.
And I was thinking about that, and that was why I wanted to talk about this. We don't talk about betting that much, really, ever on this podcast. I don't bet. I think that, like, if you want to bet, like, I kind of feel about it the same way I do about your fantasy team. Great. I don't care. It was a fun moment being in the stadium. There were some Villanova fans that, like, were cheering both because they were excited about the fact they were scoring, but then the one guy was very sweating the bullets because he had some money on the game in terms of spread or over under. And I do think that has become, if we're going to be hammered down and hampered with all of these ads, all of these promo offers, all of these things, I think in a moment like that, as a journalist, I guess, more so than anything else, give me that context to the point that you're saying. I think that's okay. I think where I'm going back to what you said about the alienation of audiences is the, like, that was interesting to some, or what is it? What does Al Michaels say? Oh, it was significant to some. That all spawned from Al Michaels saying that on Monday Night Football broadcasts or Sunday Night Football broadcasts, kind of when betting was, like, sort of becoming legal, to now when he does it a little bit on Amazon, right? But it's still like this, like, very broad or very open inside joke.
Right, and especially with the NFL, they have betting partners.
Right.
They have people who do it. If you're on ESPN, get the ESPN bet sponsor when he makes the read and talks about it. That's significant, because anybody that made their bet on the game through ESPN bet knows the spread was whatever. That's great. Then you're actually serving a sponsor, you're serving the viewers, and you're being honest with people. It's different from the stadium not announcing the right attendance, if we think that's the case. But you're still just be honest. Like, if you want people to trust you about other stuff, go ahead and be honest with them about that stuff. It's not a big deal. Somebody decided to bet. You're one of the bigger number of percentage that didn't bet. That's okay, but at least you know what they're talking about, as opposed to, well, I wonder if he's talking about the over. I wonder if he's talking about the spread. Is there some parlay I don't know about? Like, just tell us.
Yeah. I think it is, especially in a game where they're at that point, what is the story? I mean, maybe the other part of that storyline is the fact that Penn State would have, and he brought it up, Connor Onion brought it up, that Penn State would have hit or had back-to-back shutouts for the first time since '96. And I think he informed me of that, but I think at that point in the game, that we can debate whether it should or should not be the storyline, but like gambling has always been a part of sports. You could always go to Vegas and put money on a game, right? Like tell me about that. Inform me of that. Now, I do think it's different that like I wouldn't want that Georgia and Tennessee game, right? Like I don't want that. That is secondary storyline. That is the 10th most interesting thing happening right now on the field. I want all of the information to get me and serve me as a fan of that play, this thing, that thing, etc. That's not interesting to me. But when you're captivating an audience of trying to hold people into, and I guess at that point, I don't know who's tuning in. I don't know that there even are probably that many Penn Staters that are tuning in until maybe.
But broadcasters make those decisions about content all the time, right? Like we're going to talk about the LSU game and the 66-year-old band member. Like that 66-year-old band member was, well, he wasn't in the band. Well, the band didn't go to Clemson when they got there. So the team that had their first home game did that story because he's in the band. So that situation determined whether or not they shared that story. In this instance, the situation would determine whether or not you talk about betting.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good way of putting it. No, I agree with that. Okay. I was just curious. I wanted to make sure that, like, we don't need to.
I mean, unless you got a sponsor and at the 4-minute mark of the fourth quarter, we're looking at 4 pieces of betting action that have happened this game so far, and we did this, and this. Make it, if it's a standing element from ESPN Bets, and it's in all your games, and say, okay, the over is this, and we're there. The spread was this, and we're there. They've got this thing to cover, and there was this prop bet that got the most action. Even that I'd be comfortable with because you're promoting ESPN Bets. It's a standardized feature in your broadcast. I mean, I don't think we're getting there, but if you're going to lean into it and make it valuable to people who are interested.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about TNT. TNT, the thing that they do that annoys me at intermissions of hockey games is they have Paul Bissonnette give his opinion of what the bet will be. Like here's the bet, here's the offer. Paul thinks this. And I think they'd do something maybe similar with Charles Barkley or one of the NBA guys. To me, that's not. I think that's a little too, and even I think NBC does that where they talk about like, oh, I think like I don't know if it's Matt Berry or somebody else. Oh, I think these are going to hit. I don't want that. Like but yeah, to your point, like in some ways some of that is also like. I mean, there are computer models of that rank performance of teams that have some of that type of data built into it. So it's not like it's not credible information, I guess I would say, or anything like that. No, I think that's a good point. Make it a part. Don't make it a part of the center of the broadcast, but make it. If you're gonna bring it up, and
right. Anything's better than just not the inside joke that some people get or the inside information. Just serve viewers.
And maybe that's. I don't know if that's a college, like an NCAA like kind of role, but I mean, I can't imagine that it is because I feel like I guess it would be weird that you could show I know for a fact, at least on the scroll bar at the bottom, that they show the over under. Fox shows the over under. Right. I don't know. I don't remember if in the broadcast it shows that, but I feel like I have seen, and I mean, hell, Gameday was picking against the spread this week. Like they had a couple picks against the spread. So
okay, no, it's kind of funny. The bottom line, right, has it like that's the bottom line, right? Like that's kind of like the line has the numbers, but like the broadcast doesn't. It doesn't seem that there should be separation.
Correct.
It's all the same. It's all the same information.
Okay. All right. One more thing before we move on. I forgot to bring this up in the game day presentation aspect, but we, as mentioned. In this week's, we gotta find a name for it. I called it "Did You Know?" But as mentioned in that little post, we are gonna have a quiz this week. Steve texted me this idea, and I think it is borderline diabolical, borderline fun enough for us to pull off and try. We're gonna ask you some questions about the sponsors of Penn State football, and various activations that happen in the stadium, etc. I have 10 questions on here. Steve and I have to have a post editorial meeting about it. But for the people with the highest score, by the end of next week's podcast, we'll enter you in to win some stuff.
That's great.
So
I was just testing knowledge. Now we're giving stuff away. That's wonderful.
So, sweeten the pot. I do feel there was one question on that you sent me, and I was like, I think it's this one. So it's not easy. I tried to make this hard.
You got to pay attention to sponsors, right? They're the ones who are going to be saving you money, or at least whatever else. So
whatever. Yeah. Okay. Old Guy, Young Guy was brought to you by my lunch today.
Yeah, frozen meals. You said.
Are you a? Let me back up. I went to the grocery store to pick up something for lunch today. Didn't know what I wanted. Wanted something relatively quick. I was like, oh, there's this. It's from Devour, and it is a buffalo chicken blue cheese mac and cheese that is delicious. Have it usually pretty regularly. Got that for lunch. It's a frozen, like one of you just pop it in the microwave. Is Steve Sampsell a frozen meal kind of guy?
Yeah, it depends on what it is. Buffalo blue cheese macaroni and cheese sounds pretty good.
That's good. That's good.
So yeah, that sounds good.
Is there one that's like particularly high on your?
Well, it might just be frozen items. Like I'm probably not doing the meals so much as I'm doing like the chicken tenders and nuking those, right? Or air frying those, like and doing that kind of thing. I don't know that I have an actual meal. We went on a run when we first moved to DC, and maybe back of like the bag frozen meals for dinner. Like I'm sure they had lots of salt in them. Like the one dish things that came in the bag kind of thing. Yeah. And for lunch, no, I don't know that there's a go-to there. And I'm trying to think what's in the time machine upstairs that's frozen that would be like one thing. I don't know if there's one thing, but it would be like I wouldn't be averse to that. Like my bad thing at lunchtime is if I'm going downtown State College, like you can't get out of lunch for like less than $8, right? Like it's just, that's maybe 10. So my very unhealthy hack, and you'll be able to handle this hopefully, is I'm going to McClanahan's and I'm buying a can of raviolis and like an Arnold Palmer iced tea, and that's lunch. And I'm getting out of there for like $3.29 with the iced tea and the can of overpriced raviolis, so.
No, I think I would walk up to Target because they might have a little bit cheaper, but.
That's true. That's a little bit longer walk. That's a fair point.
Burn off a little calories there. But no, I think it's especially for lunch. Like I don't think you need a gourmet meal for lunch. We don't do a lot of frozen like things, but frozen meals we have for lunch. Like we get from Trader Joe's or Lidl frozen Indian food, which is quite good. Mm-hmm. We have and then I get those Devour meals that are pretty good. But that's like once a week at most.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take leftovers in maybe if I remember. Susan's home, right? So she'll end up doing like an omelet or something easy or a salad because she's here. So, and then, yeah. So the frozen stuff is probably more occasional than regular. And it might be more for dinner than it is for lunch just because like, okay, whose turn it is to make dinner? Did you have time? Nope. Okay, what's in the fridge? What's in the freezer? So.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, I'm just curious. All right, that's this week's podcast. Running out of how to talk. Juice. I don't know. We've got a couple things coming this week. We're gonna do the quiz. That'll run into next week. We are going to. I want to update or put up a new AI slop article about some of the Facebook posts I've been seeing lately because there's some interesting ones. I want to do something else this week. I was going to write about Adidas this week. Might do something on the stadium naming thing a little bit. I pulled together some numbers, trying to get some answers on one particular number.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you. I know.
And I've got a price of, I think the price of the fan thing is next week.
Okay.
The cost of being a fan.
Okay. I'm interested for that one.
I'll probably have something for you to look at, and we'll polish it a little bit into next week. That's why it won't be this week.
That's fine. Do we want to announce what we're doing next Saturday? No?
I don't have a drum roll, but go ahead.
Okay. You know what we're doing. Go ahead. You're aware. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure I'm springing anything on you. We are going to do our first ever live episode.
We're going to do what?
First ever live episode of Stuff Summer Says with
Steve.
Steve. At Steve's Tailgate. We're going to finally divulge the location of Steve's Tailgate information.
I don't think we've ever hidden it from anybody.
No, but we've protected you. Yeah, that'll be fun. Swing by.
If you show up with the sign, we'll give you some food. The best sign wins.
Best sign I will put down some stuff. I will offer up some stuff. If you show up with a sign. We got to figure out the logistics. Not sure quite on timing. We're gonna figure that out. We might make a Facebook event for it. Make you aware. If you can and you are interested, swing by. I do believe it's the what number year chili cook-off?
This is the 20th year. This is champions versus champions only. No new entrants this year. Only people who have won before.
It's like this is gonna be intense.
And there was like 4 people tailgating. 3 of them were talking smack this weekend. So the chefs are a little antsy, a little fired up.
All right. So yes, we are doing our first ever. Legitimately, we will live stream it to YouTube. I'm gonna work on that, figuring that out this week. So yeah. Okay. The name of this show is Stuff Summer Says with Steve. We have a website. It's called StuffSummerSays.com. On that website, you can find a section called With
Steve.
Perfect. 5 stars, thumbs up. Appreciate that. We have emails. Mine's Darian at Stuff Summer Says. Steve's is
Steve at Stuff Summer Says.
Perfect.
.com.
.com. I think there's also a .com on mine if I didn't say that. And lastly, you can find me on the internet at Stuff Summer Says. You can find Steve
at Steve Samsel.
See ya. Bye.